Now, today is Father's Day. Hopefully that's not a surprise to anyone. And it's a day in which we honor our fathers. And I'm not sure how big of a day this is in your household. It was never that important in our house growing up. And I really don't make that big a deal about it now either. I'm not very big on celebrating things like birthdays, anniversaries, Mother's Day, Father's Day. I kind of try to convince Sue that instead of spending money on those days, let's put that all toward nicer vacations. So we tend to just do it all and go on nicer vacations rather than buying gifts here and there throughout the year. It also makes it a lot easier on my schedule of, oh no, this one's coming up. Oh man, I got to get something. So my dad was never big about making a fuss pretty much about anything. And you're going to hear a lot about me and my dad's relationship today. So he was never about making a fuss. So Father's Day was no different. He really didn't make a fuss about anything. I think my mom may have made his favorite dinner, or maybe they went out to eat, because I don't remember ever the whole family going and doing something on Father's Day. And then again, that might be what my dad wanted, to get away from 4 sons for the day. I don't know. Everybody has their own Father's Day wish. So maybe that was what he wanted, and that's why I never really know we did anything. Now, I'm not sure what type of traditions you might have as a family on Father's Day. If everybody gets together and you barbecue, you take him out, or whatever you do, or go out to a ball game. I know some father-sons go out to baseball games and that kind of stuff. I really don't know. Now, whatever it is, I hope that you have a happy Father's Day and you kind of get what you're hoping for. Kind of like Christmas, when we get cologne, socks, underwear, and ties, right? The things that we're always looking for, that actually it's really the things our wives know we'll never buy for ourselves. And we get them on those, Father's Day and Christmas. And honestly, I didn't even know stores sold that kind of stuff, because I never saw it in the sporting goods section, which was the only part of the store I ever went into. So we're going to look at a passage today that actually tells us what a father truly enjoys, or what delights him. And actually, we're going into Proverbs. We're going to Proverbs chapter 23, verses 22 to 25. So Proverbs 23, verses 22 to 25. Listen to your father who gave you life, and do not despise your mother when she is old. Buy the truth and do not sell it. Wisdom, instruction, and insight as well. The father of a righteous child has great joy. A man who fathers a wise son rejoices in him. May your father and mother rejoice. May she who gave you birth be joyful. It's always interesting when, as a child, when we try to think of what to get your parents as a gift. Now, usually when we are kids, we have very little money. So we make homemade cards, macaroni art in school, a couple of hand turkeys maybe, and then we give them to our parents. And our parents accept them, hang them on the refrigerator with magnets, and tell us how much they love them and how much it makes them happy. Now, we know that the artwork and our handmade crafts are not museum material, but our parents display it nonetheless. How many of you still have magnetic pictures or magnetic stuff up, and your children my daughter is 31 now. I think we still have some stuff on the fridge, right? It's a lot easier now that you don't have a cat trying to jump up and bring them down, but we still have those type of things on our fridge, and our daughter's 31. I think we have a little picture when she was like in 2nd grade playing soccer in one of those little globe magnet things that you put. So all those things that we can embarrass her when she comes back, things parents are supposed to do. Now, what about as we get older, or we become adults, or we hit adolescence and begin to mature? What will bring our joy to our parents or our fathers now? Now, my dad was never a sentimental person. It was never a person that would give you a praise or a compliment, for that matter. You could never get a read on him. You would tell him something you did or something you accomplished, and you would barely get a response. Now, it wasn't until I was in my mid-30s that I found that my dad used to take all my sports clippings to work and show them off to his coworkers. Now, he always told us kids that he hated sports, And it was a waste of our time to be playing them, and that we should be working. From the age of 16 on, we were supposed to be working. It was my mom who said, they have their whole life to work. Let them play sports if they want to. So if it wasn't for my mom, me and my brothers probably wouldn't have participated in all the high school sports we did. But then it was my dad who took the newspapers to work to talk about his sons and their sports accomplishments. Now, I kind of wish I knew that when I was still in high school and not finding it out when I'm in my mid to late 30s, but I guess late is better than never. So you may wonder why I'm taking you down this memory lane with my past, with my dad and high school accomplishments. I think it all has to go along with the passage that we read today. When we talk about honoring our fathers and giving them something special for Father's Day, we can look at what this proverb truly has to say. It starts off by saying, listen to your father and do not despise your mother. Now this verse is basically telling us about respecting what your parents are trying to teach you and do not disrespect them. So what does that mean to our younger people? Don't talk back to your parents. Listen to the lessons that they're trying to teach you. Learn from their mistakes. Don't duplicate them. I am more than willing to share the mistakes that I've made if it will keep someone from making the same mistakes. Just ask me. I'm more than willing to talk about the things I've done in my past because I don't hide anything because we learn from life's experiences. But as I just said this, and kind was addressing to the younger people here today, all of the older people, raise your hand if you did not listen to all the lessons your parents tried to teach you. So when you get a little frustrated because your kids aren't listening to everything you're saying, just realize you acknowledge you didn't necessarily listen to everything your parents tried to teach you either. Sometimes we learn the hard way, and we learn different lessons. Now, what I'm telling the youth is don't be disrespectful when they're trying to teach you those lessons. You may listen to them, you may not. Now, so then the next verse talks about knowing the truth, obtaining wisdom, understanding, and discipline. So we must know what is right. So one of the things your parents are trying to teach you is right from wrong. To help you learn what is right, to help you gain that wisdom, to help you make wise choices. And then when you gain that wisdom, you also gain not as much knowledge as possible. And unfortunately, we all know some knowledge comes from life experiences. Sometimes we make bad choices and we gain knowledge from it and we don't do that again. So as much as parents try to teach you everything, some of it you're going to have to learn on your own. We have to have discipline to resist what we know is wrong. So we're being taught right and wrong, but we have to have the discipline to resist from going astray, and we must be able to understand the difference. Now, so that's what the first two verses were basically saying. And the last two verses sums up what doing those first two verses can accomplish and how we can really give our father and mothers great gifts if we listen to their teachings. It says, if you become a righteous man or woman, your parents will rejoice and be full of delight. They will have great joy as you become wise and live a life that reflects your wisdom. Your parents will be proud and rejoice the honorable life you've chosen to live. Now, as you start to read this and start to understand it, parental pride is basically strictly on the accomplishments of the children. So I didn't know about that in my dad earlier in life, but basically as we grow up, the things we accomplish is really the best gifts that we can give to our parents. It's the thing they can tell their friends. It's the things they can share. Now it's interesting because, again, my dad really never gave compliments. And again, I didn't know about this, that the life I would live would bring my dad joy or stuff like that, because I was always told that's the dumbest decisions you've ever made. And I'm going to give you the background how that worked out. The one smart decision I made was enlisting in the Army. My dad was 22 and a half years Army. My mom was in the Army. All my brothers in the military. So I enlisted my senior year, I enlisted in November before I would graduate the next June. It was called Delayed Entry Program. So when I told him that I went in and I enlisted with the recruiter, the last 6 months, it was very peaceful in our house. Because my dad's rule was you get out of the house at 18. So, and I had turned 18 in October. So I joined the Army, did 9 years in the Army, got out of the Army. Dad said, stupidest move I ever made. And remember, I make a lot of stupid moves, all right? So he said, that was the stupidest move I ever made. And I went and worked at a help desk and worked there for a year. I quit that job to go work for a computer networking and phone installation company. He said, stupidest move I ever made. Yes, Dad. After a while, you start to go numb to it, right? So I worked there for a year, and then 3 of us started a company doing computer networking and phone system. Stupidest move I ever made, so he said. So that company grew. When after 12 years, we were up to 50 employees, living, I'll share a little bit next week, but living pretty good life. Then I felt the call to go to ministry. So here I'm a vice president of a computer company with 50 employees, and I decided to go to seminary, which me and my owner decided that if I was going to go changing careers, he didn't necessarily need me as a VP anymore. He gave me some time to get a job. I got a job as a database administrator while going to seminary. Dad said, stupidest move I ever made. So then after 4 years of seminary, I then went into ministry full time. Interesting thing about all of this is, again, hearing stupidest thing I've ever did the whole way through. Then my dad, when he's in the hospital, tells the doctors, he had 4 sons, but he told the doctor he has 2 sons. One who's a doctor and one who's a pastor. And the doctor said, well, I guess you got both ends covered then, as we think about that. But I'm sitting there, all that heartache he gave me about going into the ministry and leaving the computer thing, then you're going and bragging, and I'm sitting there going, what the nerve, But that kind of realized that the life we choose to live, it gives the parental pride. And fathers and mothers aren't looking for fancy gifts from their children. They just want their children to grow up, be productive adults, and be someone they can be proud of. Now, being a pastor, my dad was not a very religious man. As a matter of fact, he'd be the first to tell you a dirty joke or tell you a joke making fun of God if he thought it would bring a laugh. But he was very quick to point out that he had a son who was a doctor and a son who was a pastor. Ignoring the son that did 30 years in the Marine Corps, I'm like, come on. You also have a Marine, man. Ooh-ah. So he loved to tell, like I said, he loved to tell the doctors that. And even though Dad did not have my same beliefs, I grew up on, most of you know probably Psalm 23 by heart, okay? We didn't have that version you find in the Bible on the door of our basement. My dad had a different version. And his version, and I didn't know until I went to seminary that, oh man, that poster wasn't right. Because my dad's version said, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because I'm the meanest SOB in the valley. So when you think about that was the way we were brought up as military people. I don't know if that was some saying they got when they were in Vietnam, because he definitely did a couple tours over there. So he didn't have the same beliefs. He didn't choose to live a life the same way I chose. But eventually, my life as a pastor gave him and my mom something to rejoice about and be glad about. And as children, that's the best Father's Day gift we could possibly give to our parents. So when we're thinking about gifts to give fathers and mothers, how many of us examine our lives and say, is my life bringing honor and glory to my parents? Am I living a life that would make them proud, and are they rejoicing? Now, my dad and my mom have both passed away. My dad over 10 years ago, my mom, I think 5 years ago, and I also had a brother who passed away 5 years ago. So now when you're able to think back and look, and how many of you learned hindsight's 20/20, right? It's the things you find out about life as you go on. So some of the things I'm sharing now is things I wish I knew while my dad was still alive, and I didn't. So how about when we think about fathers, though, how about our Father in heaven? Are our lives bringing Him glory and honor on a regular basis? Is our life something that God would be proud of? Are we setting an example for our younger people around us to learn and follow? Now, I hope that all the fathers here have a happy Father's Day, whatever you're doing. Don't worry about the gifts for your dad. Just grow up and live lives that will make your parents proud. Take the lessons that they have taught you and gather your wisdom and knowledge and make your life something special. Let them be able to brag about you to their friends at the senior cares luncheon or wherever that may be. And the smile that when they think of your accomplishments. May everything we do honor our parents and, more importantly, honor our Father in heaven. Let's go, Lord, in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, as we look at the book of Proverbs, there's so much wisdom in those little nuggets of information. And as we look at the wisdom our parents teach us, everyone here acknowledge we didn't listen to everything our parents said. We all acknowledge that some things we had to learn through the hard way and through life lessons. But as we continue to grow and mature, we continue to make our parents proud. And as we strive to make our parents proud, may we also strive to make our Father in heaven proud. That we live lives that glorify Him and that we are able to do His will. In His all-powerful and holy name, amen.